Memories are timeless treasures of the heart. Join us as we share weekly obituaries in memoriam reflections and loving tributes. We hope you find solace in the memories shared. In loving memory. Dudley Alexander Marconi Bentham. Arleigh Henderson Clark. Marva Yolanda Darlington. Everson Robinson Elcock. George Eustace Harrington Harris. Frederick Owen Hurdle. Sylvia Lolita Mears. Goldwyn MacArthur Scott. Melvin Everett Seeley. Aya Lynn Patricia Walters. By Owen Neville Ward. Winston Grant Worrell. One at rest. Think of me as one at rest. For me you should not weep. I have no pain, no troubled thoughts, for I am just asleep. The living thinking me that was is now forever still, and life goes on without me now, as time forever will. If your heart is heavy now because I've gone away, dwell not long upon it, friend, for none of us can stay. Those of you who liked me, I sincerely thank you all, and those of you who loved me, I thank you most of all. And in my fleeting lifespan, as time went rushing by, I found some time to hesitate, to laugh, to love, to cry. Matters it now if time began, if time will ever cease? I was here, I used it all, and now I am at peace. Dudley Alexander Marconi Bentham, affectionately known as Mark B., aged 95, of the Lisbonville, Silver Sands Christchurch, entered into eternal rest and reunited with his truest and dearest love, his wife, Audrey E. Bentham, on Tuesday, July 18, 2023. Loving father of Margaret Harewood, Peter Bentham, Michael Bentham, and Carol Ann Franklin. Beloved granddaddy of Mark Bentham, Dr. Janique Haywood, Kristen Bentham Clark, Scott Bentham, Dwayne Bentham, Dr. Melissa Bentham, Dominique Franklin, Jason Bentham, and Danielle Franklin. Loving great-granddaddy of Dr. Kathleen Bentham, Ebony Bentham, Mark Bentham, Kiona Bentham, Gabriel Bentham, Seth Haywood, Destiny Bentham, and Riley Clark. Uncle of many. Father-in-law of Vicky Knight Bentham, Diane Bentham, Derek Franklin, and Carol Andrea Gill. Close friend of Clyde and Adrian Broom. Friend of many. A service of thanksgiving for the life of the late Dudley Bentham takes place on Wednesday, August 16th at the Chapel of Coral Ridge Memorial Gardens, the Ridge Christchurch, where relatives and friends are asked to meet at 10 a.m., followed by the interment in the Frangipani Lawns. You may also join the family via live stream at www.clydebjonesfuneralhome.com. Arleigh Henderson Clark, aged 79 years, affectionately known as Nobby, late of Callender's Court, Christchurch, and formerly of the UK, retired British Rail Inspector, husband of the late Odine Eugene Clark, father of Sandra Edwards of the People's Market, Pauline Clark Eugene and Donna Clark, both of the UK, grandfather of Adrian Boyce of the QEH, Deandra Edwards, Leon Fontaine, Theodore Clark Pierre, great-grandfather of Relique, Derek, and Mateo Edwards, brother-in-law of Sinclair McCollin of Paris Hill, St. Joseph, and Christopher McCollin of the USA, father-in-law of David Edwards of R.L. Seal and Damien Eugene of the UK, relative of the Clark family and Daphne McCollin, friend of Joel Hall, Lawrence Gittins, Ryan Kelman, Jackie and Leona Brathwaite, Hadley Boucher. The funeral of Arleigh Henderson Clark leaves Belmont Funeral Home, Belmont Road, St. Michael, on Tuesday, August 15, 2023, at 1:30 p.m. for the chapel of Coral Ridge Memorial Gardens, where relatives and friends are asked to meet at 3 p.m. for the service. Cremation will follow immediately after. The organist is kindly asked to attend. The service may be viewed via live stream at www.belmontfuneralhome.live/Arleigh Clark. Marva Yolanda Darlington, better known as Doreen, ages Big Six or Gran, late of Marchfield, 6 Roads, St. Philip, former conductress of the Transport Board, daughter of the late Ivan Blackman and Clarine Darlington, mother of Sonia Bishop, Ryan Darlington of the Transport Board, and Paula Darlington, sister of David, Roger, Wendy, and Glyne Darlington, Vicky Darlington of Emerald City Supermarket, grandmother of Shakira Darlington of the BWA, Michaelia and Najee Bishop, Kyle McConney, Daquan Darlington of Inchcape Inc., Demarian Darlington, great-grandmother of Kiara Burke and Dakari Bishop, aunt of Davin and Davina Wiggins, Raheem Boyce, Cody and Daniel Darlington, and the late Mojena Darlington, niece of Cora Aline, Goldwyn and Rhonda Darlington, cousin of Neil Harewood, Ethelyn Greenidge and Lucille Wharton, all of the USA, and many others. Mother-in-law of Jerry Bishop, Dave Clark, and Lana Holder. Sister-in-law of Barbara Walrond, relative of the Atherley, Aline, Wharton, and Blackman families. The funeral of Marva Yolanda Darlington leaves Belmont Funeral Home on Friday, August 18, 2023, for the Brereton New Testament Church, where relatives and friends are asked to meet at 2 p.m. for the service. The funeral will then proceed to Bushy Park Cemetery for the interment. The service and burial may be viewed via live stream at www.belmontfuneralhome.live/Marva Darlington. Everson Robinson Elcock, CBE, BCH, JP, MJF, aged 86 years, of number 28 Rowans Park, St. George, entered peacefully into rest on August 3, 2023. Chairman of the Elcock Group of Companies, members of the Lions Club of Barbados South, founding member of the Heart Foundation of Barbados, son of the late George and Ancora Elcock, son-in-law of the late Theophilus and Lillian Burrows, husband of Maureen Elcock, father of Joy, deceased, Antonio and Adrian Elcock, grandfather of Justin and Sana Elcock, father-in-law of Anne Wallace Elcock, brother of Noel Elcock of the UK, Tudor Elcock, Eugene Hines of the USA, and the late George and Ordine Elcock, Glenda Frederick of the USA, Mary Elcock and the late Merle Bob of Trinidad, uncle of Pamela and Patricia Elcock of the UK, Christopher Elcock, Karen Seymour, Alicia Ward, Beverly Andrews, Ronald Frederick, all of the USA, Christine Anna George, Mary Bob of Trinidad, and Chatawayne Burrows, brother-in-law of Mazelda Zelly Elcock, Barbara Elcock, Kenneth Hines, J.P., Pauline Elcock, Celestine Innes, Jean Lane, Joan Harris, Esther Ward, Marcina Burrows, and the late Coleridge and Hudson Burrows. Relative of the Elcock, Burrows, Jones, and Gibson families, friend of Pat and Andrew Boyce, Melvin Toppin, Albert Phillips, McLaren Holder, Stanton Gittins, Michael Amori, Pat Clark, Dr. Blondell Durant, Bill Malaloo, Stephen Farmer, Lyndall Nurse, David and Robin Bino. The funeral of Everson Robinson Elcock leaves Belmont Funeral Home on Tuesday, August 15, 2023, for St. George Parish Church, where relatives and friends are asked to meet at 3 p.m. for the service. The funeral will then proceed to the St. Augustine's Church Cemetery, Market Hill, St. George, for the interment. The service and interment may be viewed via live stream at belmontfuneralhome.live/Everson Elcock. George Eustace Harrington Harris, aged 65, better known as G or Georgie, late of Straker's Tenantry, Black Rock, St. Michael, A-class carpenter and former football of Black Spurs and Black Rock Masters FC, son of the late Eustace and Oriole Harris, née Phillips, beloved brother of Merlene, June and Densley Phillips, all of the USA, Linda and Nolan Phillips, the late Michael, Orville, Dick, and Mignell Phillips, Elaine Boxall and Grace Cumberbatch, uncle of Oriole, Elvis, Evangeline, Arlene, Angela, Joycelyn, Sandra, Lynette, Paulette, Danny and Oliver Phillips, Jacqueline Phillips Jones, Janelle and Romelka Duggan, all of the USA, Lydia Chandler, Cheryl Phillips Brooms, Ramona Phillips, the late Stephen Phillips and others, great uncle of many, cousin of Imelda Boutet and Angelica Hurst of Sussex, England, Muriel Haynes and many others, relative of the Phillips, Harris, Walker, Worrell, Grisette, and Bagheri families. The funeral of George Eustace Harrington Harris leaves Belmont Funeral Home on Friday, August 18, 2023, for St. Stephen's Anglican Church, where relatives and friends are asked to meet at 2 p.m. for the service. The funeral will then proceed to the Westbury Cemetery for the interment. The service and burial may be viewed via live stream at www.belmontfuneralhome.live/George Harris. Frederick Owen Hurdle, also known as Freddie or Da, aged 81, of E17 Baycroft Road, Carrington Village, St. Michael, and formerly of Station Hill and Hall's Land Back Hall, St. Michael. Retired supervisor of Roberts Manufacturing Company Limited. Beloved husband of Thelma Hurdle. Loving father of Sandra Franklin, Paulette and David Hurdle. Brother of Sherland Bryan, the late Cynthia Mears and Darnley Hurdle. Grandfather of Paul Mears, Stephanie Franklin and Victoria Hurdle. Father-in-law of Keith Franklin and Stacia Hurdle. Brother-in-law of Colin Mears, Iris Hurdle and Loretta Holder. Uncle of Monica Franklin, Rudolph Graves and many others. Special friend of Albert Aline and many others. The funeral of the late Frederick Owen Hurdle leaves Keith Jones Funeral Home, Passage Road, St. Michael, on Thursday, August 17, 2023, at 8:30 a.m. for Bank Hall Church of the Nazarene, Bank Hall, St. Michael, where relatives and friends are asked to meet at 10 a.m. for a service of thanksgiving. The cortege will then proceed to Westbury Cemetery for the internment. Live streaming of the funeral service and burial may be viewed at keithjonesfunerals.live/Frederick Hurdle. Sylvia Lolita Mears, aged 56, affectionately known as Sylvie of Contentland, St. Thomas, loving daughter of the late Mavis May Herbert and Dudley Bain, cherished sister of Vereen, Geoffrey and Janice Mears, Jennifer Small, Lucille Lewis, Dorothy Legall, Flavia Benskin, and 4 others. Aunt of Nigel, Alison, Bernadetta, Chantella, Sarika, Ramon, Dario, Mario, and Shaquille Mears, Emery and Janika King, and many others. Great aunt of Caleb Greenwich, Denisha and Kamari Mears, niece of Everton Moore, the late Samuel Moore, Ulysses Bailey, and Monica Payne, cousin of Cyprian Moore, Anthony Mears, and many others. Sister-in-law of Betty Mears and Leonard Small, relative of the Bain, Drakes, Bailey, and Moore families. Friend of Peter Bevell, Wendell Harper, and many others. The funeral of the late Sylvia Lolita Mears takes place on Wednesday, August 16, 2023, at St. Thomas Parish Church, Seaview, St. Thomas, where relatives and friends are asked to meet for the service of Thanksgiving at 3 p.m., followed by the internment in the churchyard. Live streaming of the service and internment may be viewed via elizabethfuneralservices.live/Sylvia Mears. Goldwyn MacArthur Scott of Quarry Road, Arthur Seat, St. Thomas, entered peacefully into rest at the age of 63. Sunrise, February 24th, 1960. Sunset, July 20th, 2023. Cherished husband of Valda Scott, son of Cleveland Payne and the late Onetta Bryan. Loving father of Alicia Springer and Akela Scott, stepfather of Terry and Henderson Yearwood, grandfather of Laquan, Azari, and Alanis Springer, step-grandfather of Tajay and Naraya, brother of Olivia Williams, Junior Scott, Patrick Bryan, Marcine Cumberbatch, and Reverend Anderson Kelman, nephew of Philippa, Verona Richards, Ina Gibson, Almeta Cummins, Ormond Payne, and Irita, uncle of Crystal Cumberbatch, Mezzanine Bryan, Kimar and Kalia Williams, Kamisha and Rhea Aline, Jabari Scott, Anderson Jr. and Azarias Kelman, great uncle of 7, cousin of many, father-in-law of Lawrence Springer, brother-in-law of Steve, Earl, Eugene, Dave, and Rohan Yearwood, June Alfred, Judy Yearwood Clark, Paula Norville, Leroy Williams, Basil Cumberbatch, Caroline Scott, Stacia Bryan, and Maureen Kelman. The funeral of the late Goldwyn MacArthur Scott leaves Earl's Funeral Home on Thursday, August 17, 2023, for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Jackson St. Michael, where relatives and friends are asked to meet for the service of Thanksgiving at 2 p.m. The funeral will then proceed to Cassia Lawns, Coral Ridge Memorial Gardens, the Ridge Christ Church, for the internment. Live streaming of the funeral may be viewed via watch.earlsfuneralhome.com/Goldwyn Scott. Melvin Everett Seeley, born June 27, 1958, late of Bayfield, St. Philip, son of Hilma Seeley of the UK and the late Ralph Codrington, brother of Frances Seeley of the UK, Andrew Seeley of New York City Tunnel Construction, Timothy Seeley and Roy Arthur, both of the UK, Elvis Codrington of the USA, Alvin, Peter and Paula Codrington, Sheila Harewood, retired U.S. Navy, common law husband of Stephanie Gooding, father of Charlene, Nathan and Nadia Gooding, stepfather of Joanne and Corey Gooding, grandfather of Ariel Gooding, Skylar Gooding, Shavario Olton, Jaden Gooding, Kizan and Kaylan Leonce, brother-in-law of Ruth Thompson Seeley, retired New York City Department of Corrections, Lucinda Codrington of the USA and Shirley Arthur of the UK, uncle of Andrea Stewart of First Citizens Bank, Judy and Joyanne Seeley, Roynell Thompson, Sherry-Ann Adams, Dana Stewart, and 14 others. Cousin of Grace and Lorna Gittins, Brenda Luke, Jocelyn Marvin Seeley. The funeral of Melvin Everett Seeley leaves Belmont Funeral Home on Thursday, August 17, 2023, for St. Catherine's Anglican Church, where relatives and friends are asked to meet at 3:30 p.m. for the service and interment. The service and interment may be viewed via live stream at belmontfuneralhome.live/Melvin Seeley. We give thanks for the life of our miracle, Aya Lynn Patricia Walters, also known as Baby Girl or Sweet Sweet of Lot 12, Batallies, Speightstown, St. Peter, who went to be with her Maker on August 2nd, 2023, at the tender age of 4. Student of the St. Albans Primary School, precious daughter of Greg Walters and Carolyn Jackman Walters of Welch's Primary and Eden Lodge Nursery, beloved sister of Ayoka Walters, granddaughter of Emerson Jordan of Canada, Margaret Walters of the USA, and the late Clifford and Elaine Jackman, niece of Margaret Collymore, Dighton and Monica, Samuel and Junior Jackman, Jacqueline Gibson Barrow, Earl Barrow, Sherla and Clancy Wharton, Merlin and Grantley Griffith, Shirlene Clark, Enid and Alphonsa King, Corey Branch, Heather and Anthony Spencer, great-niece of Euleen and Desmond Catlin, Curtis and Ansonia Marville, Junior Ward and the late Dormita Ward, Waple, Hazel, Everton, Robert and Sherry Collymore, Roger, Vincent and Joan Jordan, Lorna Toppin and Errol Waterman. Cousin of many, goddaughter of Juliet and Wendell Murray, Francis and Shelley Springer, Padmore and Nikisha Worrell, Gregory Williams, Kevin Farmer and the late Melissa Porter Farmer. Relative of the Walters, Jackman, Collymore, Marville, Jordan, Waterman, Cumberbatch, Harris, Chandler, Franklin and Catlin families. Friend of Janice and Norma Chandler, Sophia Gibbons and family, and many others. The funeral of the late Aya Lynn Patricia Walters leaves Earl's Funeral Home on Monday, August 14th, 2023, for the Chapel of Mount Pleasant Memorial Gardens, Pleasant Hall, St. Peter, where relatives and friends are asked to meet for the service of Thanksgiving at 10 a.m. Tributes will begin at 9:30 a.m. The funeral will then proceed to the Casuarina Lawns for the interment. Live streaming of the funeral may be viewed via watch.earlsfuneralhome.com/Aya Lynn Walters. Let Not Your Heart Be Troubled by Owen Neville Ward. Affectionately known as Daddy of Upper Brighton, St. George, former member of St. Luke's Anglican Church, you are with your darling again in glory. Until we meet again, we love you. Loving husband of the late Lucille Iverna Ward. Father of Victor, Alan, John, Edwin, Livingston, Hainsley, Veronice, Leela, and Cecilia. Son of Elsie Sargent and Johnny Ward. Brother of Victor Sargent and the late Eustace and Kenneth Ward. Godfrey, Wilton and Clyde Sargent, and Audrey McInnes. Grandfather of 38. Great-grandfather of 40. Great-great-grandfather of 1. The funeral of Owen Neville Ward leaves Belmont Funeral Home, Belmont Road, St. Michael, on August 15, 2023, at 1:15 p.m. for St. Luke's Anglican Church, where relatives and friends are asked to meet at 3 p.m. for the service and interment. The organist and choir are kindly asked to attend. Floral arrangements may be sent to Belmont Funeral Home no later than 12:45 p.m. on Tuesday. The service and burial may be viewed via live stream at www.belmontfuneralhome.live/Owen Ward. Winston Grant Worrell of number 25 Valley View, Maynard St. Peter, formerly of Indian Ground St. Peter and Birmingham, England, entered peacefully into rest at age 93. Retired store manager of the British Telephone Company. Husband of Nadienne Blossom Worrell. Son of the late Clotilda Worrell. Father of Denton Marshall, former member of the Barbados Police Service. Stepfather of Ron Johnson of the Bahamas, Jacqueline Peterkin of the United Kingdom, and the late Sadie Peterkin of the United Kingdom. Grandfather of Kim Ramsey Moore, attorney at law. Great-grandfather of Jada and Jordan Moore. Brother of the late Owen Worrell. Uncle of Perlita Farley and Winston Worrell. Cousin of the late Gilmore Worrell and many others. Father-in-law of Corrine Ramsey Marshall. Relative of the Worrell family. Friend of Leroy Harris and family. Clifford Taylor and family. Juliet Hall and the late Randy Hall and many others. The funeral of the late Winston Grant Worrell leaves Earl's Funeral Home on Saturday, August 19, 2023, for the Chapel of Mount Pleasant Memorial Gardens, Pleasant Hall, St. Peter, where relatives and friends are asked to meet for the service of Thanksgiving and the interment at 10 a.m. The funeral will then proceed to the Casuarina Lawns, Mount Pleasant Memorial Gardens for the interment. Live streaming of the funeral may be viewed via watch.earlsfuneralhome.com/Winston Worrell. This week, we remember Rosalita Yvonne Clark, Clyde Rudolph Dalrymple, Harcourt's Fitzroy Eastmond, Patricia Hassel, Winifred Doreen Hinkson, Fernella Husbands Vaughn, Simone Ashley Veronica Mears, Michael Richard McLean, Philip Wilkin Mosley, Serlene Diane Rock, Rudolph Sylvester Thompson, and Everton Watts. One of the greatest comforts in times of sorrow is the expression of sympathy conveyed in many ways. The team at In Loving Memory thanks you on behalf of the families for your expressions of sympathy at this time.